Hi, Dr. Marlene, physical therapist here. Today we're going to talk about how to get your baby to bend their knees when coming to sit. So definitely repetitive sit to stand at your leg is very important to build your baby's upper extremity strength, their arm strength, and their leg strength. At first, when your baby starts to actually pull up on furniture, they may lock their legs and fall on their bottom. If you have experienced this, then it would be a great idea to have a small stool for them to do sit to stand at the furniture or use your leg. And in a video I'm about to show you, I'll also show you some tips on how to help facilitate them to bend their knees by putting some pressure to the back of their knees. And so I'll show that video shortly. I also wanted to talk about the proper sequence for transitioning from sit to stand and stand to sit. Initially, with these techniques, your child is probably going to do kind of a low squat and then fall on their bottom. And at first, you may notice once they get the knees to bend, they'll be doing that with the lack of control, but the more they practice, the better they'll get at it. So we're also going to go over that in this video coming up and the proper sequence that eventually you want to be able to teach them, and they may just do it naturally eventually once they get their strength where it needs to be. So let's go ahead with no further ado and go to the video. And that's just an example of a child locking their knees and falling to sit. I'm having to do a voiceover for some reason. The voice of the video didn't carry over when I'm editing. So right here I'm just showing how you can use a low seat or your leg to do sit to stand. But by this time you've already probably done like sit to stand with them straddling your leg. So you could always bend your knee or straighten your leg like this at the furniture depending on what furniture you're using. And you can still practice pull to stand from your leg to do the sit to stand. So you could use your leg, get them to stand and sit. Repetition is key to build that leg strength, and trying to get them to use the furniture to pull up while you're doing this is also very important. And here I'm just showing how you can use your thumb to put a gentle pressure to the back of their knee. It's called the popliteal fossa. And if they feel that pressure there, it will make them want to bend their knees. And if you need a guard with one hand, you can do one leg at a time. Usually if you get one knee to bend, the other knee will automatically bend. And you can kind of play with your hand position and try to see what feels best for you to facilitate that and support them if they need it. So that was just a demonstration on how to facilitate that bending those knees. You can also do this technique where you help them get into that low squat and drop their bottom to the ground nice and slow. So you're using your hand to facilitate that knee bend, and you're using your arm to also just give them that support so they know that this is safe, you can do this. Preferably you want them to still be holding onto the furniture as much as they can while they're going down. Now that we've gone over techniques to facilitate knee flexion, which is bending the knees when performing stand to sit, we're going to talk about the proper developmental sequence for stand to sit and sit to stand. So the first thing when transitioning from stand to sitting, you would shift your weight and go into half kneeling. Half kneeling looks like a lunge position. Once you're in that position, then you shift your weight and you go into tall kneeling. So right now this is half kneeling, shift, tall kneeling. Then your child, or even when you do it, you do this, you would shift your weight to clear your hip and come into sitting. Once you're in sitting and you need to come back to standing, then your child would shift their weight, bring their hip in, come to tall kneeling, shift, come to half kneeling, and push up into stand. But right now, pretend like there's a piece of furniture in front of my doll. I just don't have the stool there so you could see better, but they would be using the furniture to help support them come up to stand. So now you can see it from the posterior view. And you can see if you need to, you can give them that support at first to help them just do the squat to sitting, and then get them to feel safe coming down. And then you can start working on shifting your weight, coming into half kneeling, shift, coming into tall kneeling, shift, clear that hip, and come into sitting. And passive weight shifting is very important for your child to learn how to do these transitions. So don't be afraid to passively shift them as you're trying to teach them how to do these motions. This video was in a Canva, so it might be small, so I'll attach the full Loom video where it should show up larger on your screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm Dr. Marlene Mireles, physical therapist. Thank you. When your child first learns to pull to stand at furniture, when they come down, they may not, some kids don't bend their knees. They're kind of lock out their knees and then just fall on their butt like so. So if you want to help them learn how to bend their knees when they come down, I would first start by putting a small shoebox or little stool or even your leg at the piece of furniture that they do sit to stand at or pull to stand. And I'm sure by this point you've already done pull to stand this way at your leg, but now you want to teach them at the furniture. So you'd use your leg, you'd let them pull to stand, and you would practice coming from sit to stand at your leg at the furniture. If they need motivation once they're standing, you could place a toy on the ground to get their attention. And if they still tend to lock their knees out, what I would do is use your thumb, put it to the back of their knee, right in here. It's called the popliteal fossa, and it can make them bend their knee. So it's to help promote that. So that's a great way. And if you need one hand to guard them, you could do one leg at a time, or you can, depending on the size of your child, you could have your fingers here, your thumbs here, and work in this fashion, kind of play with it a little bit. Then when you feel like they've gotten better at that, you can, if you want both legs, you could use one whole hand and kind of just help them come down to the floor so they can feel that it's safe. So right here, let's see if I'm in the camera. So here, poke the back of their knees to help them bend, your arms kind of helping them go down slowly. So then once they get used to it, they may bend their knees and plop down, but as they get practice, they start going slower and slower. Then the proper developmental sequence, and some kids go straight to this, some kids don't, where they shift their weight, go into half kneeling. So this is half kneeling with, it's like a lunge position, one leg forward, one leg back. So they go into half kneeling, shift their weight, and then go into tall kneeling. This is tall kneeling. So it's half kneeling, shift, tall kneeling, shift to clear their hip and come to sit. But they'll be doing this with furniture in front of them. And then when they go to pull to stand, again, they'll shift, clear their hip, go into tall kneeling, shift, go into half kneeling, and then push up. All while holding the furniture, and eventually they'll be able to do it without holding the furniture. So let's kind of go through it at the stool again. Face this way this time. So standing, you can use your hands to help them bend their knees to fall back on their bottom while they're holding the furniture the whole time. Then eventually you'd want to promote shift, half kneeling, shift, tall kneeling, shift, clear their hip, and come into sitting. Yay!